Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
Greetings, and thank you for joining me, Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. Today, we are so pleased to have as our guest Dr. Robert Kiltz. Dr. Kiltz is a board-certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist and founder and director of CNY Fertility, one of the largest and most dynamic fertility centers in the country. He has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Today Show, and CNBC for helping shape the future of fertility medicine. Dr. Kiltz has earned recognition outside of the fertility world for pioneering the holistic health movement and the keto lifestyle. Also, amazingly, he has fit in writing several books, including The Fertile Feast and Daily Inspirations, and his latest book, Living Your Best Life, How to Think, Eat, and Connect Your Way to a Better Flow. We'll be touching on that book today as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Kiltz.
Ellen, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be sharing some thoughts and ideas how we can all naturally improve our mental and physical health and wellness.
So let's go back in time and share with us, why did you become a physician and why did you specialize in OBGYN?
Well, I think I was always a helper. I know in my family, I always loved helping my mom and dad around the house. My sister had diabetes since age 4. I always saw the tremendous amount of disabilities that caused for her and my family. And when I wound up in college, I was attracted towards medicine as a healing profession. I was at the Los Angeles Free Clinic and volunteering for a long time. And it just felt natural and normal to go into the medical field and a helping field.
And that's how you got to medicine.
Essentially, yes. And OBGYN loved delivering babies. It was such a miracle and amazing thing. And then soon found myself as a fertility specialist practicing traditional Western medicine.
And so by that, you mean conventional Western medicine, because I myself am a midwife and I worked in a fertility center in Manhattan for many years. And so it's wonderful, the conventional therapies and what they can do. But when we're talking about traditional, being a traditional midwife before I became a nurse midwife, certainly the traditional healing therapeutics have been used for thousands of years and really can be helpful along with more modern Western techniques.
Absolutely. I think the word contemporary or Western and Eastern medicine is probably a good way to talk about it. But yes, for thousands of years, tradition in our ancient philosophy and learning about nature and its connection to humans is really important. And we need to instill that much more into our Western medical practices.
Don't you think? Because that is at this point in my career, and I've been doing this since 1964 in terms of natural therapy, I really think at this point we have enough evidence, as well as looking at everything, including cost, including negative side effects, that really traditional techniques should be the first intervention, but bringing in the wonderful, more mechanical Western techniques that are definitely life-saving when used at the appropriate time.
It's such a more inclusive process that everyone has the resources to utilize the traditional methods that are everywhere. And we in Western medicine need to talk about it much more. I believe that prayer and meditation and yoga, things like acupuncture, massage, absolutely are critical. And then herbal medicine has been around for thousands of years as a pharmaceutical method, but it may be something that we should, and I do believe we should be looking at that before we dig into our Western philosophy. Some of the things that I've looked at more even is keto diet or changing our diets, whether it's keto or paleo or some dietary change. It's really critical because our diets, I think, are deadly for us currently in our modern lifestyle.
So important, Dr. Kiltz, and somebody of your level of expertise and education saying so is so wonderful. And I know you are a proponent of keto lifestyle, and you look like you practice it yourself. Why don't you share with our audience? Not everyone knows what that even would mean.
Well, keto is just another label of a eating and food philosophy that is mostly a higher fat diet, and ketones are some of the molecules in the body that go between fatty acids and ketone bodies, which can be utilized as an energy source or a pre-energy source for our bodies. And typically we think about it as ketoacidosis for diabetics that are in ketoacidosis, but ketones are in our body all the time. And by reducing the carbohydrate load, either the frequency or what you're eating, you can put yourself in a lower glucose level, which is tremendously healing for the human body. I believe that sugar is really the killer of us, but we're eating too much of it too frequently and thinking it's okay for us, but it's not. So keto means a high fat, low carb diet versus paleo, which is also high fat, but just a little more carbs than you would in a keto diet.
So in your new book, Living Your Best Life, How to Think, Eat, and Connect Your Way to a Better Flow, how do you help readers move into something like a healthy keto diet?
Well, the keto diet is just one form of dieting, but one of the things I think is fasting is really important. We know spiritually fasting is integrated in all of the ancient religions. It's something we all should be practicing on a daily basis. So that's much of what I talk about in the Living Your Best Life is how to spiritually connect more with the mind and the body through meditation, through acupuncture, through Tai Chi and yoga and those sorts of things. We are pushed to use food as entertainment, which really it should be used as a medicine to heal our body by using it less variety, and less frequency. I think those are really the foundations of a healthier body and mind.
And of course, most people eat exactly opposite. And when you say high fat, I need you to go into that a little bit more, because in my book, Weight Loss, the Alternative Medicine Definitive Guide, I talk about the fact that healthy fats, although it might not be intuitive, actually help you burn your own body fat because it requires more energy to really take them in than they give the body. So you're so right about healthy fats. They slow down that digestive process. But what do you mean by that? That's not like fried chicken.
Well, fried chicken is actually not fatty. It's mostly a protein, not fat. When you boil something in water, the water is not generally soaked up into the thing you boil. You remove it when it's cooked and it drains the water. When you boil something in fat, it's a higher temperature. It also doesn't soak up the fat. But as it turns out, that fat is the only fuel for the human body, not sugar. Sugar and amino acids are precursors for fatty acids, which are made in the liver via insulin, which is really critical for the human body. That's why anorexics have significant disease and can drop dead fast, while those that are overweight tend to get the chronic diseases, because obesity is created by chronically overeating too many carbohydrates in frequency and amount. So it's really interesting that the fuel for the body is fatty acids. Fatty acids are easily cleaved into the 2-carbon acetyl-CoA particle, which is easily converted into a ketone body and then right back into acetyl-CoA in order to get into the mitochondria and be burned into ATP, the energy we require.
So wait, I'm going to slow you down 1 minute.
Yes.
I understand exactly what you're talking about, Dr. Kiltz. And also, I worked with Dr. Atkins in the years he was developing the Atkins diet, which seems to me pretty close to a lot of the keto concepts as well. And we got amazing results. I mean, 100%. People just changed. They got, a year later, we took pictures of them. They looked like really younger people. And I think it has a lot to do with that chemistry that you were talking about. But let's explain that again. In not everybody has the language to understand what you just said.
Well, the simplicity of it is that we can eat carbohydrates, we can eat proteins, and we can eat fat. we need fat in order to survive. You will die without it. We don't eat it. So your body makes it out of carbohydrates, which are plants, and amino acids, which really come from muscle. But there's some amino acids in plants that in general we can get the majority, but not all of our essentials. So fat is the energy, but we don't eat fat. But fat is used to make soap, which is the cleansing of the bowels and the bloodstream and the rest of the body. But it's just something we've been so turned off. And we use the term healthy fat. That's another modern label, which I don't know what it means. But
I want you to tell us what it means. Is there any difference between one fat versus another?
Well, animal fat is fat. Plant fat is actually an oil.
Okay.
Historically, we get very little fat from a plant unless you get it from an industrial source in a bottle. But an animal, you can get the fat by eating it. Lard, tallow, ghee, butter, cream are fat. An egg has fat. An avocado is mostly a plant, which means it's mostly a carbohydrate. My daughter actually would die from an avocado. My bet is that there's a lot of allergic reactions that come from the food we eat that cause the disease, not the fat itself. We blame fat as the cause, but I know Robert Atkins was really amazing. I've read all of his stuff. I think he was a leader in the field. But those people that are sharing ideas that are opposite of what Western medicine shares usually get pushed aside.
How about actually attacked? Yeah.
Attacked, absolutely. But, if you're willing and okay with being attacked and you could go out there and share as a physician, my job is to take care of human beings. My patients are more important than the ivory tower. And so I'm learning something that was a game changer for me personally. I ate a Mediterranean diet. I exercised. I was lean and, quote, healthy, yet I had bowel bleeding, arthritis, migraines, kidney stones, and psoriasis. When I found paleo and then keto and then fasting and personally did it at age 55, I now primarily I'm a carnivore. I do one meal a day at night and I don't exercise. And at 65, I've never felt better in my life. And I know now the secret. The secret is a boring diet is best.
And you don't have anything to eat the whole entire day until at night?
I don't drink coffee any longer. I rarely drink alcohol. I eat my one meal at night. It's usually a ribeye steak with butter. I do love ice cream. I make it. Kiltz's ice cream, look it up. I do occasionally eat French fries dipped in mayonnaise and fried in duck grease. And it's the most amazing thing that I've ever learned. Our body is made of animal fat. It's not made of plant fat. Plant oils are phytochemicals that can have adverse effects on our body. The only way plants can defend themselves from herbivores and other animals is to make toxins and poisons that damage us, which I think is one of the leading causes of most disease, but we don't look at it that way because the plant diet is supposedly the best thing for us.
Right. So what you're talking about is quite the opposite, a very interesting point of view. With your very high level of expertise, what have you found is the connection between food and fertility, which is certainly something that you have a major amount of expertise in?
Well, inflammation is the cause of all disease, and infertility is just another disease, like arthritis, psoriasis, kidney stones, bowel disorders, IBS, migraines. It's just another disease caused by what I call the same 5 causes of inflammation. The leading cause of inflammation is a high carbohydrate diet, which means a high plant-based diet and eating 3 to 6 meals a day. Inflammation damages the blood vessels, the capillaries, the glycocalyx, which most people have never heard of. The glycobiome is more important than the microbiome. When the Teflon shield of the body is damaged, that gives the opening for the microbes to get into us, the lectins, the phytates, the oxalates, many more plant antigens, which are mostly proteinaceous particles that elicit immune reaction in our bodies that damage our ovaries, testicles, our sperm and eggs, and ultimately the uterus tubes and the site for implantation. By going keto or fasting, I call it Kiltz's keto lifestyle, and I've got a book on that. One meal a day, you'll significantly reduce the inflammation in your GI tract, which will allow the gastrointestinal tract to heal, which will strengthen the Teflon shield of the glycocalyx, which will prevent those microbes from sticking and getting in, reduce the inflammation, allow better blood flow to your reproductive organs, allow the natural healing process to happen. And so often we're seeing so many that conceive by improving the sperm, the egg, and the uterine environment by simply changing their lifestyle.
Well, that's an interesting statement about the glycobiome being more important than the microbiome. Explain those two terms for our audience.
Well, the biofilm, that means the microbes create a biofilm. They're first in this planktonic, free-floating bacteria, yeast, and viruses and other microorganisms. And if they're able to find damage to the glycocalyx, which is a glycosylated proteinaceous cell or layer, mucinous layer that attaches to all cells and the epithelial cells. And again, I call it the Teflon shield because if you have a Teflon shield on a pan, things don't stick. If things can stick, they then cause erosion, just like rust on metal. It'll then begin to degrade the metal. So the same thing happens to our cells. So when the glycocalyx, which is the glycobiome, is damaged, the platelets and red cells and white cells stick. They release their toxic chemicals, which are there to aid in the damage, kill the bacteria, yeast, and viruses, and allow the healing to take place. But because our modern lifestyle is consuming food too frequently, the bowels, as one organ system with the glycocalyx, never has time to heal and repair. So the damage gets in. It causes everything we know in our human disease processes, along with other organisms and other animals that are in this world.
So I want to remind our listeners that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, and today my guest is prolific author and physician, Dr. Robert Kiltz, that's Kiltz, and you can find out more about him at cnyfertility.com. And what other place would be good to look for you, Dr. Kiltz?
If you look at drkiltz.com, that's another great place where we sort of have everything listed there, along with our books and videos and TEDx talk and things like that.
Which is quite prolific. You have been very active in getting this message out, but also admirable in that these are things you have done for yourself, as well as a long, long list of experience with patients. So for yourself, what is your morning routine like, since you're not drinking coffee and you're not eating anything? So what do you do in the morning before you go in and do a day full of surgery, which you are actually in the midst of while you take your break to do a show with us today?
I normally get up between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And I usually awaken with my thoughts of thank you, God, Lord, Creator, for the day. I'm grateful for the day, and I go through my list of gratitudes. And I usually get dressed pretty quickly. I get in my car. It's about a half an hour drive through the farmland between Skinny Atlas and Syracuse, New York. That's my main place of work is in Syracuse. And when I get here, I will do on my drive, I'm usually listening to some positive philosophy and literature that sort of gives me some thoughts of improving my day. I come to work and I'll do some journaling. And then I usually will record a 5-minute video I call my daily intentions or daily inspirations. I've written a number of books. Well, I'll usually read from one of them, or I pick up James Allen or Sarah Young and Jesus Calling, or some other religious or spiritual philosophy to share, no matter what the religious or non-religious beliefs are. I love to share those things. And then usually by 6 a.m., I'm already starting with my patients and clients for the day.
And you have had not one thing to eat or drink, or at
I
least
drink
only
water.
Okay.
Historically, I would drink coffee, and I stopped my coffee routine about 3 months ago just to do it. I love coffee. I love tea, but mostly coffee with nothing in it. I don't think they're harmful per se, unless you drink too much of anything is not good. Even too much water is not good. But water is really the drink we should all be focusing on and eliminating pretty much everything else.
So with the water, are you particular about what kind of water, since that's what you're using as a focus?
I do like sparkling water, but usually just tap water, bottled water. That doesn't matter. There's some mineral waters I think that are very good. I think we're not getting enough minerals from our natural water because all of our water is purified. And so less purified water is probably better. But since our water sources are often contaminated or maybe contaminated, I don't know for sure, but you want to check on those things. But I usually just do some tap or bottled water myself.
So that is an interesting routine that I'm not sure everybody could jump on board with, but you got there and you found that it is excellent for you. Tell us about another book of yours. You have so many, and one you refer to called Daily Inspirations.
Well, my daily inspirations and daily intentions. I wrote my first daily intentions about 15 years ago. And then kind of worked on my other one probably around 5 years ago. And I'm continuously reading and writing these things. But I know for myself, I went through a lot of challenges in my life: divorce, separation, work issues, personal issues. And between therapy and then Tai Chi and yoga and meditation, I needed some daily ritual that would help set the tone for my day. And I found that writing a daily intention was really helpful for me. So it has a great spots for you to read some of my thoughts and ideas, a great picture, even some lines in there to write your own thoughts and ideas. And you could cross mine out and write your own in there, which I think is helpful for all of us. We're not going to church anymore, or many of us aren't. And I know as a Catholic, I don't much anymore, and I consider myself that. But I really look at all religions and spiritual and positive beliefs as a daily intention of improving your life.
Oh, as do I. And I would have to say, I do the same. I write an intention every single day. I write a spiritual intention, and then I'll write something like let's say a big goal, getting an RN. This was years ago. Okay, I want to be an RN. What can I do today that will lead me towards that ultimate goal, even if it's 5 years from now? Because people often say they're going to write a book, right, Dr. Kiltz? I've written 16 books, but it's a matter of doing it and having a program to complete mini goals so that you get to your big goals.
Yeah, I think that it's the dreams. We're things like The Secret or Think and Grow Rich, The Power of Positive Thinking. I mean, there's so many philosophical systems out there. I do a lot of dictations, and then I have a team that kind of helps. Will transcribe it for me, do a little editing. I get it back, I re-edit it, and kind of go back and forth. So there are lots of different ways to do these things. I'm always reading other people's ideas. Good artists borrow, but the best steal. Look, nothing's new. We're all learning from others, and we're learning ideas from other people that we're putting into our compilation and our story and our dream. But you have to see wherever you're at as a perfect place to be as you're building your dreams of your tomorrows.
Well, that's a really wonderful philosophical and inspirational concept. So in your book, Living Your Best Life, How to Think, Eat, and Connect Your Way to a Better Flow, you've shared with us a lot of the things that someone might find in there. What kind of start and finish could somebody anticipate? Or is this a book that you would use, sort of open it and use it wherever it is and see how it speaks to you?
Well, I love to just open books wherever I'm at. Sometimes I read them from beginning to end. I do a lot of audiobooks. I love audios because I'm able to paint and do pottery or go for a walk or ride my bike and listen to a book. But I think it's meant just to be another resource of the ideas that you might find helpful. And so I always say do something to learn something new and different. and be open to opposite ideas or things you don't believe in. That's really critical. And maybe some of these things are going to be opposite than you're used to. But unless you do something different than you're doing, you won't get to the do in different place you've been dreaming of.
And also about, fasting all day. Do you feel weak or dizzy after the kind of, active lifestyle you have with no food until the one meal at night?
Our human body is actually meant to go days and weeks without food, not hours. Our body functions better, but we're addicted to sugar and carbohydrates, so we want to eat. Well, the human brain is really smart. It's not going to let you go without eating when there's no food around for the next week. Your brain still believes a famine is around the corner. So our dizziness and our weakness is just a reactive withdrawal to an addiction, which is part of our human beingness. We're addicted to sugar because it was rare in the ancient environment. It's too prolific today. That's why you have to be in charge of what I call the human Ferrari. You're it. Take responsibility, change your ways, and you will get to where you want to be.
So if people begin something like not eating for the full day and eating a high protein meal at night, like what you're saying, I'm wondering what could your cookbook be about? I noticed you're planning a cookbook.
Well, it's a high fat diet, not technically a high protein diet.
Okay.
Too much protein, like too much sugar, is deadly. But the Fertile Feast cookbook with Marie and Craig Emmerich, we've really been working out with a long time, but it's basically keto lifestyle.
So you'll be talking about different ways to make that one meal a day very attractive.
I think
right?
so. Again, but I would say of the one thing you do in your health and wellness, if you go to one meal and maybe a snack, you will feel healthier than ever. But you got to do it for at least 21 days.
And the dizziness and, weakness that people experience when they first start fasting, how long does that usually take to resolve?
A few days to a week, but take a drink of water, lay down, relax, put your feet up. I think we need to take more naps.
So a good time to start might be over a weekend if you did want
absolutely,
to
but you need to start. You might do the 2 meals a day and a little snack, but you got to wean into it. But ultimately, we are built to go days and weeks without food.
Well, Dr. Robert Kiltz, Kiltz, and you can find links to Dr. Kiltz and his work on our podcast, which of course always are posted after our radio show. And I want to thank you so much for being our guest today, Dr. Kiltz.
Ellen, thank you. God bless. What a pleasure.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning into Herbally Yours, produced in the studios of 90.3 WHPC, Nassau Community College, Garden City, New York. Remember, you can also hear us on iHeartRadio. For further information, email us at whpc@ncc.edu. This is your host, Ellen Kamai at naturalnurse.com, inviting you to join us next week for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.